They took photos of my porch every time I changed decorations and posted them with sarcastic captions in the group chat. So I started changing it weekly, from beach party mode to haunted library to under construction. Now everyone's waiting for the next theme. I live in a quiet cul-de-sac in a small town in Ohio. Most of the neighbors are friendly, but there's always that one group that thinks they're better than everyone else. They have a group chat where they gossip and make fun of people. I found out they were taking photos of my porch decorations and posting them with sarcastic captions. At first, I was hurt. I love decorating my porch for different seasons and holidays. It's my way of expressing creativity. But seeing my efforts mocked made me feel embarrassed. Then I got angry. Why should I let them make me feel bad for something I enjoy? So I decided to turn the tables. I started changing my porch decorations weekly, each time with a different, over-the-top theme. One week it was beach party mode with sand, beach chairs, and a kiddie pool. Next it was haunted library with cobwebs, old books, and spooky lighting. Then under construction with caution tape and fake tools. I noticed the group chat's tone changed. They were still posting photos, but now they were curious and even impressed. Neighbors started asking me what the next theme would be. Some even offered to help. Now, my porch has become a neighborhood attraction. People look forward to the new theme each week. The group that once mocked me is now silent, and I've found a new sense of confidence and community. The thing about quiet neighborhoods is that they only stay quiet until someone stirs the pot. And I did, without meaning to. At first, my porch themes were just for fun. A little harmless revenge. But I didn't know it would set off something way bigger. It started with the Wild West Saloon theme. I hung up old wooden signs, put out hay bales, even had a dummy sheriff with a plastic badge sitting in a rocking chair. People loved it. A local teacher stopped by to take photos with her class. I laughed and waved from the porch. But not everyone thought it was funny. 3 days later, I got a notice from the HOA. It was an official-looking letter, but I knew exactly where it came from, Rebecca. She's one of the ringleaders in that group chat. She lives 2 houses down and pretends to be sweet but has eyes like a snake. The notice said my decorations were distracting and against the visual guidelines of the neighborhood. That made me laugh. Visual guidelines? We have a guy down the street with plastic flamingos year-round. But I knew what this was. It was payback. Because now I had attention. I wasn't the joke anymore. Instead of backing down, I doubled down. The next theme. Jurassic Porch. I built cardboard dinosaurs, had jungle vines hanging from the roof, and set up a Bluetooth speaker with random dinosaur wars going off every 20 minutes. Kids came running from blocks away. Even a news crew showed up for a local segment on creative pandemic hobbies. I didn't even tell them to come, someone must have tipped them off. Guess who looked furious in the background of the news clip? Rebecca. Now it wasn't just decorations. It was a war. After that, things got weird. One morning, I found tire marks across my lawn. Big, wide ones, like someone did a slow roll just to leave a trail. Another time, my mailbox was knocked over. Could have been an accident. Maybe not. Then I caught her. I had set up a motion sensor camera, one of those Ring ones. And around 1:32 a.m., it caught a figure in a hoodie walking up to my porch and tipping over a fake Roman column from the ancient Greece theme. She tried to hide her face, but I recognized the walk. It was Rebecca. No doubt in my mind. I took the footage to the HOA. They brushed it off. Said it could be anyone. But I knew they wouldn't act because Rebecca's husband is on the board. Real convenient. That's when I got serious. I launched Themed Thursdays. Every Thursday, a new design. No warning. No leaks. Just full transformation overnight. I started documenting each one online. Soon, I had thousands of followers. Then tens of thousands. A retired vet in Arizona sent me a donation to keep it going. A local art shop offered to sponsor materials. I even got a box of props shipped from someone in New York who called me the Porch Warrior. But not all followers were friendly. I started getting weird DMs, stuff like, "You're embarrassing the neighborhood," and "People are talking. Stop now." Anonymous accounts. Probably people from that same chat group. Maybe even Rebecca under fake names. One night, I heard scraping outside. When I went out, nothing was there. But the next morning, someone had stuck a note on my door. It read, "If you keep pushing, something will break." Now, I'm not someone who scares easily, but that got to me. I installed more cameras, added spotlights, even told a couple of neighbors I trust. They offered to help me watch things. I wasn't alone in this anymore. But then something happened I didn't expect. A man in a suit showed up one Saturday morning. He said he was from a property development group. Said they'd been watching the porch transformations online and wanted to talk about a TV pitch. A whole show based on extreme porch makeovers. I laughed out loud. At first, I thought it was a joke. But he was dead serious. Showed me a proposal. Even had a name in mind, Porch Wars. Said there were sponsors interested. I didn't give him an answer. I needed time. My heart was racing. The idea of turning this drama into something big? A way to maybe even move out of this HOA nightmare? It was tempting. But also dangerous. If Rebecca and her crew were already mad, this would send them over the edge. The next week, I kept it low-key. Zen garden theme. Soft wind chimes, bamboo plants, little stone paths. I thought maybe, just maybe, the quiet would help things calm down. But that night, I saw Rebecca pacing in her driveway. She had her phone to her ear and her free hand waving like she was arguing. Her eyes locked on mine. No smile. Just straight up fire. The next morning, all my porch decorations were gone. Everything. Even the floor mat. Cameras were disabled somehow. I checked the footage, blank spots. Like someone knew how to cut the power just long enough. That was the line. That was the moment I stopped treating this like a game. I called a lawyer. Then I called the guy with the TV pitch back. And then, I went to work. Because this wasn't just about my porch anymore. This was a full-on battle for my peace, my pride, and maybe even my future. And it's far from over. So here I was, standing on my empty porch, staring at where the stone lanterns used to be, the smooth gravel I had raked into perfect little spirals gone like it was never there. The bamboo. Gone. My welcome mat. Even that had vanished. It felt surgical, like whoever did this wasn't just trying to mess with me, they were trying to erase me. I called the cops. They came, took a look, wrote a report, shrugged like it was just some kids playing a prank. One of them, Officer Hale, was polite but clearly bored. He handed me a card and said to call if anything else happened, but I could tell they weren't taking this seriously. Why would they? Who robs a porch? But something about how the cameras had been taken offline bothered me. That wasn't just some drunk teenager acting on a dare. Someone had known exactly where the power line fed into the porch and had unplugged it clean. No damage, just disconnected. That took planning. The next day, I noticed it. Tiny red paint marks on the edges of my sidewalk. Barely visible unless you were looking. I followed them. They led down the street and around the back of a few houses. I felt my stomach twist. This wasn't just some one-off stunt. It was coordinated. I started doing my own digging. Remember the group chat that started all this? Turns out, it wasn't just neighborhood gossip. I found out about it by accident when one of the newer neighbors, Tanya, showed me a screenshot someone accidentally posted to the town Facebook group. It had a blurred-out name, but the caption made it clear it was about me. Digging deeper, I learned something I hadn't expected: Rebecca's little group chat. It wasn't just for mean jokes. It was tied to a private little investment group, something shady. They were trying to rezone our block. If enough of us gave up and sold, they could knock down the homes and sell the land to a chain supermarket. My porch shows. My online popularity. It was bringing too much attention. Making our little neighborhood seem vibrant and desirable. Not the ghost town they wanted to present to the zoning board. Suddenly, everything clicked. The weird DMs. The tire tracks. The silent treatment from the HOA. This was bigger than me being annoying with my props. I was interfering with money. And that made me dangerous to them. I didn't tell anyone what I knew right away. Instead, I planned. The next week's theme. Crime scene investigation. I turned the porch into a full-on mock investigation. Yellow tape, numbered markers, even silhouettes drawn in chalk on the pavement. I put up fake evidence boards and one very large sign, Case 001, Who Stole My Porch? The local news came back. This time, they weren't just curious, they were invested. I gave them the footage I did have and a hint that I believed it was more than a prank. That there might be people trying to force homeowners out. By Monday, there were reporters calling my cell. The HOA had an emergency meeting that Tuesday. They didn't invite me. But Tanya snuck me a transcript. Rebecca was furious. Claimed I was spreading conspiracy theories. But here's the twist: someone else at that meeting, someone unexpected, stood up and backed me. Mr. Dorn. An 82-year-old man who'd lived on the block since the 70s. A man who hardly spoke to anyone unless it was about his cat. He told them he'd received offers, cash ones, to move out soon and quietly. When he said no, someone slashed his tires. Twice. That changed things. Suddenly, it wasn't me versus the HOA. It was the HOA scrambling to explain why multiple residents had been quietly approached by real estate consultants who didn't leave business cards. That week, I launched the Whistleblower's Porch theme. Decorated with mock newspaper headlines, blacked-out documents, and a life-size cardboard cutout of me holding a megaphone. Corny. Maybe. But it hit a nerve. By now, my following online had crossed 200,000. I started getting offers to speak on podcasts. Local politicians were suddenly aware of community suppression efforts in small-town zoning. I didn't even have to name names. The heat was there. But just when I thought I had the upper hand, I got hit with something else. A letter. Certified mail. From a law firm. The envelope was heavy, like it was filled with bricks. Inside. A cease and desist. Accusing me of defamation, public disruption, and incitement. And at the bottom. A name I recognized from the HOA board. Not Rebecca this time, her husband. A quiet man who never spoke much at meetings. That's when I knew for sure. I wasn't up against some mean suburban lady with a grudge. I was up against people with money, lawyers, and a real plan. And somehow, I had become the wrench in their machine. But here's the thing, I wasn't alone anymore. By the end of that week, I had half a dozen neighbors offering to help build props. Retired folks, college students back in town, a single dad who just wanted his kid to grow up in a place where people looked out for each other. We built the next theme together, Neighborhood Watch. It had mannequins with binoculars, fake CCTV cameras, and a big community message board inviting others to share what they'd seen, anonymously. Notes started showing up overnight. Stories of shady visits. Unmarked vans. Property offers that disappeared when someone asked for ID. People were scared. But they weren't silent anymore. I don't know how this ends. Not yet. But I do know this: my porch used to be a stage for decorations. Now it's something more. A message. A symbol. A bright, messy, too loud for the HOA middle finger to the people who thought they could silence me with sarcasm and group chats. They wanted me quiet. Instead, I became the loudest porch in America. The week I went silent, the whole neighborhood noticed. No theme. No lights. No signs. My porch sat empty and plain. No messages, no props, nothing but an old bench and a dead potted plant. People started asking questions. Was I giving up? Was it over? But I wasn't quitting. I was setting a trap. I spent the week listening. Watching. Reading every little thing that came through my mailbox, every whisper on the town Facebook group, every sideways glance from Rebecca and her crew. Behind the scenes, I had already hired a lawyer of my own. Nothing fancy. Just a guy named Miles who worked from his kitchen and had a temper like a pit bull on a short leash. He was slow to talk, but once he sunk his teeth into something, he didn't let go. Miles told me I'd made a few mistakes, posting certain names, implying things without solid proof. If I wasn't careful, they could sue me for real. I was mad at first. But he was right. I had let my pride turn into obsession. I wanted to win, yes. But I also wanted to humiliate them. And that gave them room to hit back. But I wasn't done. I just needed to do it right. That's when the zoning board held a surprise meeting. They called it a routine check-in, but the timing was too perfect. I heard from Tanya that Rebecca's husband was planning to fast-track a motion to allow commercial redevelopment on our block. He was hoping the last few homeowners would crack under pressure. They needed just one more house to sell. Mine. I showed up to that meeting in silence. No signs. No porch props. Just me, in the back row, with a thick folder in my lap. When it came time for public comments, I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't wave papers. I just spoke. I explained what had been happening, not just to me, but to others. I showed them the letter Dorn received, the screenshots from the Facebook messages, the property offer documents I'd gotten anonymously from 3 different neighbors. I played a clip from the news segment, where a little girl said my porch made the street fun again. Then, I handed the board copies of a new petition. Over 80% of the block had signed it. Refusing to sell. Refusing to be pushed out. People applauded. Rebecca turned white. That would have been enough. That should have been enough. But I wasn't finished. The next morning, I launched my final porch theme. It was called The Reckoning. The setup? A courtroom. Wooden planks painted to look like judge benches. Stuffed dummies dressed like lawyers. A big plastic gavel. And right in the center, a fake podium with a sign that read, The People versus the Petty. Below it, photos, real ones, of tire marks, mailbox damage, even a printed copy of the red paint trail I'd followed. It was the kind of display that made people stop. Some laughed. Some just stared. That night, a storm hit. Wind, rain, thunder that rattled the windows. And still, people came to see the porch. Some brought umbrellas. Others just stood in the rain. 2 days later, Rebecca resigned from the HOA board. Her husband followed a week after. No statement. No apology. Just silence. Rumor was they sold the house and moved 2 towns over. Couldn't take the heat. Couldn't handle the stares at the grocery store, the sudden drop in dinner invitations. Me. I kept decorating. Not every week anymore. But often enough. I didn't take the TV deal. I didn't want fame. I wanted peace. And maybe a little respect. And I got both. The final twist. Miles called me 6 months later. Said the developer trying to buy out our block had pulled out. Too much bad PR. Too many loose threads. In plain English, we made it too messy. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being the mess. Because I stood up. I got loud. I made a few mistakes, maybe I pushed too hard, maybe I enjoyed the spotlight a little too much. But I learned. This porch. It started as a target. It became a weapon. And now. It's a monument. To every neighbor who got tired of being quiet. To every whispered insult behind curtains. To every sarcastic caption in a group chat. Let them take their pictures. This porch will always have something to say.